Okay, so the Canon EOS R100 was announced earlier. I only heard about it this morning. I got a notification from B&H, so I haven't actually seen the camera specs yet, but let's look at it and see what I think of it. As the name implies, R100, this is going to be a lower tier than the Canon R50 and the Canon R10, so not really a professional camera, probably a consumer grade. I haven't really seen it yet, but let's see what it is. I did not think Canon would go a lower tier than the R50 because that's already pretty cheap. Okay, here, let me find it. Here it is, Canon R100. Here's the camera right here. I should probably be screen recording this. Let me pull that up. Okay, so here's the Canon R100. Body only, it's $479 in the US, so definitely a consumer grade camera. Obviously, when you throw a lens on that, let's see, what are they recommending? The 18 to 45. Oh, this is a new lens. So not $600 with the kit lens. So this is definitely, again, your cheaper camera. Probably going to be better than a phone still, but at the point where it's like, should you really get a camera or should you just use your phone? So that's the price point. Let me see what the specs are. Okay, so it has the 24.1 megapixel sensor, which is higher than most phones, and because it's a much bigger sensor, it's going to look better than a phone sensor. It really depends on what type of glass you have. So if you have the kit lens, it's not going to be as good as if you use dedicated, like, high quality L glass or something like that. I can see from the picture right here that it is a crop sensor. Let's look at the specs right here. Okay, so crop factor of 1.6. So this would be a similar sensor size to the R7, and probably the R50 and the R10. So not a tiny sensor, yeah, APS-C, but not a full frame like the Canon R8. So it's what I would expect in a camera of this size. Let's see. Oh, the lens mount is Canon RF still. That's great to see. Canon used to have several different lens mounts, so the Canon EFM mount. This camera would be RFS, but it still can use full frame glass, so that's great. I love that Canon's kind of unifying their whole lineup to just be just the R series. So I guess R100, R50, R10, R8, R7, 6, 5, 3, maybe an R1 eventually. But okay, so 24 megapixels, APS-C sensor. I can see here that it has a Digic 8 image processor instead of the Digic X, so that's going to be a slower processor than the other cameras, and you can see that by it only being able to do 4K 24 video with a crop, only full HD 60, so no slow motion in this camera. Let's see what else it's got. It's got obviously no mechanical shutter, only electronic, only up to 1/4000th of a second, so that must be a sensor limitation, not being able to go up even higher, maybe to like 16,000th of a second like the R7 can do. This is probably a different sensor, probably. For video, we're looking at 8-bit, H.264, MPEG-4. For resolutions, 4K at 23.98, so 24, at 120 megabits a second. Wait, you can only do 4K. Is that what it said earlier? Yeah, 4K 24. So you can't even get 4K 30. 1080p at 60, 24. Oh, 1080p at 120. So you can do slow motion, but it's only going to be at 50 megabits a second. So it's definitely going to be that compressed look. That's not a ton of features, and this has a micro HDMI output. So if you want to use it for your webcam or for live streaming, it can do that. It has a 3.5 millimeter headphone stereo microphone input, so you can hook up an extra microphone like all cameras really. Has wireless, so you can probably connect it to their app. Yep, app. The screen is not the flip out screen, so on all the other Canon cameras, I think even the R50 has the flip out screen, so that's kind of necessary if you're going to do like what I'm doing right here, talking to the camera. So no flip out screen. It doesn't have a ton of buttons. It's going to obviously use the LPE17 battery, so the small batteries, which I guess would be fine for a camera this size. I mean, if the R8 uses it with a full-frame sensor and all that it has, I think it would be fine on this camera. But definitely limited camera specs. ISO goes up from 100 to 1,800 and extended up to 25,000. So, but other than that, everything seems to be the same. Oh, electronic shutter. Okay, so there probably is going to be rolling shutter with this camera, most definitely. It doesn't have mechanical like some of these other cameras do, just electronic, and only 6.5 frames a second. Probably limited by the Digic 8 processor not being as fast as the Digic X, like what the R8, the R7, I think the R10, all the other cameras. It can do RAW photos, which is awesome. Doesn't look like it has C-Log. It only has a single slot SD card slot, which I guess you would expect. Built-in viewfinder. That is a good thing of a camera this price that have a EVF, but it doesn't look like it's awesome. Autofocus. Flash. Oh yes. Okay, so it has a built-in flash. Is that right? See here. There it is. So it looks like it has a built-in flash, which is the feature you'll see on lower-end cameras. So the professional ones like the R8, yeah, no flash. No flash on the R8 or the R7, but I think the R50 and the R100 both have that. So, you know, all the other kind of features you'd expect in a Canon camera. So it's got the same battery type. It's probably going to be using IPB or IPB Lite for its recording. It doesn't give me all the specifications right here. Just the basics, which is really all you need to know. I mean, it's an R100, so for under $500 for the specs that it offers, I wish it did 4K 30. It doesn't, and I wish the bit rates were higher than 100, but I guess that's what it is for the price point. So whether you should get a camera like this or just use your phone camera, that's yet to be determined. I don't have this camera yet, but I guess this would be competing with the Canon T7 or something like that. But I do love that Canon is moving their whole lineup to the RF lenses and keeping everything under the same naming scheme, so it doesn't get confusing as it has been. So, you know, R100, maybe there will be an R200 at some point, or R300, but those would be probably about $200, $300. So, you know, at this price point, it's difficult to say if you should get this or just use your phone. But, well, that's it. We'll see how other reviews talk about this camera in the future and maybe get one to review at some point. One last thing before we go is this camera I think is pretty limited by this processor, and the thing that I'm noticing is it has APS-C size sensor, 24 megapixels, but for video it is cropped. So 4K video cropped on a 20 megapixel sensor, 24, it's going to be a pretty severe crop, and it's already APS-C. So to record 4K, you're going to be like way zoomed in, like 3 times plus zoomed in. So that's you're probably never going to use that. So basically, the R50 is going to be a lot better than this camera and some other, like the flip out screen, stuff like that. But I would recommend probably just using your phone over something like this. If you wanted to get a dedicated camera, maybe you want to have a zoom lens or something like that, this camera would be great for that. But, you know, it's just what you get for the price point. So, well, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please let me know in the comment section below, or if you have any further questions about any of the gear I use, maybe this camera too, I'll look at it some more. But, well, that's it for this video. If you want to become a Patreon supporter or buy any of the equipment we talk about on this channel, there are links in the description below. Well, that's it, and I'll see you in the next one.